whenever I hear somebody say that they're curious about watching old anime, or maybe they're just saying they're talking trash about it and saying that, it's ugly, it's got bad animation, a bad story, people have a lot of excuses for not wanting to watch old anime. Personally, I don't really think many of them are really that valid, because there's a lot of good movies out there, and it doesn't hurt just to spend like 2 hours to watch one. So I always have a few movies that I like to recommend people depending on their taste. Whether you're curious about what 80s anime has to offer, or maybe you're just skeptical, I think it's best to recommend somebody a movie instead of a series, because most people won't want to sit around for 50 episodes just to see if they like it or not. So a movie is really good before they know what they're in and they're out, and they've already had a perspective changing experience and hopefully left them wanting more of it. And some of the movies that I like to recommend people, of course, if they're curious or skeptical about art style, there's Wings of Hanamis or Akira, but I feel like Area 88 is probably the best example of what you would expect out of older anime series, because it actually contains a lot of elements. It's got action, it's got drama, it's got suspense, it's got romance, of course, within the story itself. It's got good characterization, character development, world building, exposition. It does all of that in varying degrees within its 3 episodes, and I feel like it's this very well-rounded experience to get people started off for 80s anime. And even if they're already a big fan of it, it's still something that I think many people will enjoy. So the story itself is set somewhere in the Middle East, and there's a war going on, and the most of the story you're going to see takes place on this air base called Area 88, and this is a base which basically hires mercenaries who come over there, and when they sign the contract to come there, it's like they can't leave until they make a certain amount of money to buy back their freedom, or if they fight for a certain amount of time and survive. Because how this works is that they're not the only ones fighting in this war here. There's also the people of the nation that they're fighting with as well here, and if a mission is too hard for them, practically a suicide mission, they pass it off to the mercenaries in Area 88, and they really don't have a choice some of the time. Of course, they choose which missions they get to pick, but they're kind of stuck there, so they're incentivized to pick these crazy missions that are going to give them lots of money so that they can buy back their own freedom. Our protagonist is Shin Kazuma, who is actually a pilot in training, a very good pilot in training, and he is tricked into signing a document by someone who is considered to be his best friend. He tricks him into signing this document because he gets him really drunk and he's like kind of passed out. He says, you gotta sign this document to stay out overnight or they're not gonna let you. Of course, he's drunk, he doesn't read it, he signs, and he basically signs his life away to this organization over there. So he's a really good pilot, but he's not a killer. He's just an air pilot for Japan to take people from location to location. So going into a war is a big change for him. Now, the great thing about how the story of Area 88 is told is that it starts off with its best foot forward, like a lot of anime nowadays, and this is something that I feel will be very appealing to lots of anime fans, because as soon as you start watching this, you're going to see that right out the gate there's this massive dogfight going on. They're fighting against other jets, they're fighting against tanks, just blowing everything up, just going crazy. It's a really awesome battle here, as what you can expect within watching Area 88, but we also see our hero, Shin Kazuma, who's this battle-hardened, just war hero here, just going around blowing everything up, and it doesn't seem to have too much effect on him because he's just so good at it. But that's actually not the Shin Kazuma that we're introduced to, as the story actually goes a bit backwards and introduces us to him through his own memories, which is a great way to tell the story, considering that they've only got 3 episodes to tell basically a complete story here. So it shows that he is on this mercenary base that he's trapped in, and that he needs to kill a certain amount of people, and he needs to stay there a certain amount of time in order to have his freedom back, but he's having flashbacks showing how he got there in the first place, and his bastard of a best friend, or so-called best friend, is actually somebody who you're gonna hate so much within the story. It's only 3 episodes long, but they do a lot to really make you hate the guts of this guy. Kanzaki is a character who is fueled by his greed and his jealousy, and he's always been jealous of Kazuma. Despite the fact that Kazuma started off in a worse position than him, he just worked harder at everything, or just was, he got lucky a few times, or was just innately better at a few things than him, and he was always jealous of him to the point that he started becoming just methodical in his intent to ruin his life, basically, considering how in the beginning of the OVA here, he gets him shipped off as a mercenary where he could potentially die at any moment there, just so that he could stay behind and have no competition for the woman of his dreams and also taking over the company that he has his ambition set on. Now let's talk a bit about romance here, because Kanzaki and Kazuma were both working for the same airlines and they were training in order to become professional pilots here, and the CEO's daughter actually fell in love with Kazuma one day, leaving Kanzaki feeling very jealous about it because she's very beautiful and he really wants her, but he just can't stomach the fact that she is in love with his best friend slash aka secret rival as well. This actually leads to one of the biggest conflicts that we see within Area 88 here, because we see Kazuma, who's off in the Middle East over here flying this jet, who's having to kill so many people, and he's an innocent guy, never hurt a person in his life supposedly, you know, he never killed anybody, and he's having to fly around and protect his life at the same time killing people in order to buy back his own freedom so that he could go see Ryoko again, and not only that, but just get away from that terrible life. So on one hand, you see that he's just desperate to go back to Japan to see her again because he's always thinking about her, he still has her picture and everything, but at the same time, he is facing this intense introspection as he is starting to slowly get used to killing people for money out there. Now, I've seen my fair share of war movies from around the world, and there's always going to be this underlying theme about basically a message that the creators of the movie are trying to put across here, and Area 88 is really no different, because this really pushes the message that once you're in war for so long and once you become accustomed to the thrill and the danger of war, not that people are just really enjoying being out there, but it's just something about the total adrenaline rush of being in such a dangerous situation that it changes you and really makes you incompatible with everyday society, and that's actually something that Kazuma deals with a lot in this movie. So not only do we get him struggling and wanting to go back to Japan in order to not only be safe but to also meet back up with Ryoko, but we also see heavy introspection on his character when he realizes, when he starts to think about how much he's changed due to being at Area 88. Now, the reason why Area 88 works so well as a drama despite only being 3 episodes long is because it does such a great job of characterization, character development, and also character interaction as well. And that's not just pertaining to the 3 major characters here, but all of the characters in this OVA, because they do such a good job of having these characters express their self even in very subtle ways, and also through body language as well, such as whenever you go onto the base Area 88, you'll see people, they don't shake hands with each other. You see that they do care immensely for each other, but they don't go out of their way to show it, such as shaking hands or anything like that. They're very sentimental people, and they do care a lot for each other, but they know how people just come and go there, and that's the thing about the story. You're going to see people that they tell you about their backstory, and it's a pretty sad backstory, and you think, okay, well, this person has it really bad. He's probably going to survive to the end and have a good... No. It doesn't work that way. There's a lot of characters here, and like older anime, they were not afraid to kill them off, and that's actually one of the staples of older anime, is that, you know, sometimes characters would just... they would die off, and that is actually true within Area 88 as well. Now let's talk a bit about the conflict within Area 88, and I think they did such a good job here because they understood the importance of cause and effect, and also they had good exposition here as well. So basically we see 2 different stories unfolding. One side of the story is in Aslan with a big war that's going on following Kazuma, and then we have Ryoko and Kanzaki's story over there in Japan. And you have Kanzaki, who is someone, like I said, he's a very devious person who's trying to manipulate people and overthrow the company that he's working for, but he's trying to do that by very underhanded methods and also manipulating people. So they do a good job of explaining how he's able to achieve the things that he does achieve within the movie, but then over here in Aslan you see a very physical combat that's going on because they are literally at war, they're fighting, and you have characters that they prioritize their own eventual freedom and getting away from the war that's going on there, and they kind of become irrational at points. Like, there are people who they will save up money instead of using that money to fix parts of the ship. Like, if they get a part of it shot and they've got to eject, they'll try to eject, but they're like, oh no, you know, they didn't spend enough money to repair the eject mechanism of their jet, so they're kind of trapped in there and they die, or maybe they run out of ammo because they didn't get enough, or maybe they spent less money because they just wanted some cheap missiles or something and they don't fire properly. You know, there's a lot of problems that can happen in war such as that, but also at the same time there's a lot of issues with the character's personality as well, and depending on how much experience they had out there in battle. I will agree that Kazuma became such an expert killer in a short amount of time, but you know, I hate to say that he's the protagonist, but, you know, if he wasn't very good at killing, it would make for a very short story because he would have only had about 1 or 2 missions before biting it. But, you know, there's a lot of other characters out there that some of them will be better than others, and you could really see how their skills on the battlefield really do influence their survival ratio here. So this is definitely something that you feel like, you know, it could actually be an actual war that's just like that because they have such a strong sense of cause and effect. So let's talk a bit about the presentation here, starting off with the art and animation. If you're somebody that is not a big fan of older anime and you're just trying this out because of the video, I want to let you know that the character models here are not indicative of what you would expect from 80s anime. They actually look like characters from the 70s with their hairstyles. Some of them even look like Beatles characters, and on top of that, their faces really remind me of manga that came out long before that as well. They definitely went with a traditional style here. So outside of how the characters were designed, let's talk a bit about the battles here, and I think they did a pretty good job. Not the best job that I've seen of war from the 80s, but they did a pretty good job here, and this is why I say that if you like the art style of this, you could easily get into some of the other 80s and 70s anime because it's very similar to good animation that you would expect from the 1970s or 1980s. Probably more 1980s than anything if you were talking about combat here. But here we see that we'll have like just bullet casings flying out when they're shooting their guns off. You see one jet just hits another with his bullets, and you can see the bullets just piercing through and parts of its hull just breaking away, showing the frame of the plane underneath it and all the parts on the inside. They did a really good job of that. They showed the detail inside the cockpit, and I think they did a really good job in terms of conflict in creating the big battle here and animating that too. So I think they did a pretty good job in terms of animation. I'm not going to compare this to something along the lines of Akira or Wings of Hanamis like I mentioned earlier, but in comparison to all of the other anime out there from that time period, they did a really good job here, and if you like the art style of this, you could definitely get into some of the other anime there. Just keep in mind that the hairstyles are a bit older here, probably not going to be a big deal for many people. Now let's talk about the music here, which I imagine is going to be a big hot button issue for people because it's just one of those instances where you don't watch the English audio. The English audio, I watched it the first time that I ever watched this OVA just because it was easier, and I think I watched the second time that way as well, but as of right now, it's probably like my 5th time watching it, and the English audio sounds very tinny. It sounds like somebody's playing it from some sort of device that they drop down a well or something. It definitely, this sound, if you're watching this in English, it makes it sound like it's 10 years older than it actually is because it's such poor audio quality to it. But if you watch it in Japanese, not only is the quality going to be better, but the music itself will actually be a bit different here, and the Japanese audio for this is so much better with the background music and everything. It's actually really awesome here. But in terms of the voice acting, like I said, the English voice acting, it wasn't too bad, but at the same time, I always have to say, in this sort of situation, you've definitely got to go with the Japanese audio because not only does it sound better, but there's better acting and also the music is better too. So it's a hands down, you got to watch this and so. So overall, I want to say that this is a movie or OVA right here that I think everybody needs to watch, and I'm really hoping that I can look on Mal or wherever and see that 1,000 more people, maybe 2,000 more people have watched this over the span of me reviewing this, because I really do hope that everybody who watched this video, if you haven't seen Area 88 yet, then you really do need to. It's only 200 minutes long. Trust me, it's not going to take that long to get through, and you will really enjoy it. Is it the best anime movie length experience out there that you're going to find? Probably not, but it is something really good that I think will change a lot of your perspectives out there, whether you are just skeptical about older anime or whether you're just curious and you want to try it. Definitely check out Area 88. And if you're looking for another recommendation, I've already talked about Hanamis and and also Akira as well. But I would recommend checking out, if you like the drama and the romance aspects of Area 88, then you've got to try, from 1970s, it is The Rose of Versailles. It is an incredibly dramatic experience. Its art style, I feel like it's somewhat similar in comparison, and I think if you are okay with watching this, then you'll definitely watch that. But trust me, it is a very heavy watch. You're going to feel some serious despair when watching that, because there are some despicable people around every corner in that anime. Well, of course, you're going to find that it is after the French Revolution, so it's one of the bloodiest moments in history. So you know there's going to be a lot of conflict going on there, a lot of drama as well. So anyways, I hope you watch it, and please, if you watch this because of this video, come back, let me know what you think about it in the comment section below. I always love hearing when my recommendations get people to watch something, especially in situations like this where it's something about something that's older, something that people would normally overlook. So let me know what you think about that. If you enjoyed the review, be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with all of my other anime reviews. I do a movie one week, I do a series the next week. Next week I will be doing Battleship Yamato 2199. That's going to be next either Friday or Saturday, depending on when I can get that out. And also, if you'd like to help support the channel, check out the Patreon. We've got all sorts of bonuses, such as tonight, actually, after I'm doing this recording and uploading the video, we're going to be doing a Discord chat. There's all sorts of stuff. We're watching a movie together tomorrow night. We do lots of stuff over there. So if you'd like to support, check out the Patreon. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you guys next time.